Great. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, nice. Okay, so we're going to let people arrive, but as we're doing that, since you all are here, we'd like to know who you are and where you're zooming in from. So just in the chat, you can put in your name, where you're zooming from. And what also might be interesting is to find out if you're an educator, what brought you here? Are you a parent? Why are you wanting to cultivate resilience in a classroom or with your kids? And you can put all that into the chat. We can see who's here. Hello, welcome. Okay. And I'll just say, if you haven't figured it out already, I'm Kate Munding. I'm a co-founder of Now Children. I'm also creator of our curriculum and the lead teacher and mentor for our programs. I'm really excited to be doing this with you this morning. I'm zooming in from my home in Alameda, California. And I've been teaching mindfulness and education since 2008. This has been a huge passion of mine for many, many years. I'm so excited to be starting Now Children, which is a collaborative effort between myself and Rob Finken, who I see is here today as well. Hi, Rob, who hails from the Netherlands. Hi there. And we are launching this program today. So this is our big launch, and I'm so happy to be doing it with this particular topic of cultivating, creating resiliency in the classroom through the lens of mindfulness. Great, I see people coming in through the chat. Welcome, everybody. Okay. So to begin, I'd like to offer a meditation, some mindfulness meditation to arrive, to feel like you can be fully present. And so we'll be doing a lot of mindfulness together within this hour. But mostly it'll be me teaching you some techniques that you can use for children, with children. And this one, though, is specifically for you. So you can go ahead and find a posture that is supportive. So you might want to sit up in your chair. You might want to be on the ground. You might find that laying down is what your body is needing this morning, or whatever time zone you may be in. It's morning here for me. You can start by closing your eyes. I see some of you have gone off camera, that's fine. Whatever allows you to become more present. You can feel your body making contact with the floor, your cushion, or your chair. Feel the weight of your body here. Just notice if there's anything that you're needing to feel more present. Maybe it's to take some big, deep breaths. Notice how you're feeling this morning. Maybe there was a lot going on before you got onto this call. Maybe so far your day is going well. It's been relatively stress-free and calm. Just a nice Saturday. Just taking a moment to acknowledge how you are in this moment. Not really needing to fix it or make a project out of it. See what it's like to bring this kind awareness to who you are in this moment. And then my invitation to you is to see if there's some way that whoever you are, however you are this morning, to feel that every part of yourself is welcome here. Can take a few deep breaths. Notice if you've settled in just a little bit more. And then we'll take a collective breath together. You can open your eyes if they were closed. Okay. And you can come back onto camera if you're able. So we can see everyone here. Welcome, everybody. It's really good to see you. I see some familiar faces. I see some new faces to me. If you haven't already, we ask people to write in the chat your name, where you're zooming in from, and then perhaps why you're interested in this topic. Why did you sign up for this webinar today? Maybe you're an educator, maybe you're a parent. I see psychologists. Maybe you're working in some after-school program. Maybe you're just curious on what this is all about. Great. Okay. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen here. All right. So we're bringing this particular topic of creating a resilient classroom to you this morning because there's been such an outcry. We've been hearing from teachers and parents, school psychologists, administrators, people who are concerned about not only what's happening right now for children coming through this past year, which I don't have to go through all of that's happened this past year. You've experienced it, you've lived it. But we are coming into this transitionary period where kids are coming back to the classroom in some cases. Some kids are staying on Zoom. We're preparing for the next school year, and there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of unknown. We don't know really what the impact has been. We don't know what kids have lived through. We don't know how that's going to affect them. We don't know what their learning gain and losses have been. And so that's very unsettling, just all that unknown. What are we about to step into, or what are we stepping into right now? And then what can we do? What can we bring forward to help our students, help ourselves, especially if you're working with children, if you're a teacher in the classroom? Is there some way to make sure that your resiliency is high enough to meet all of the possibilities that are most likely going to be coming forward as we come out of this this pandemic? So right at the top here, this is the case that I want to make today, is that mindfulness curriculum, it contains all the building blocks for resiliency. Then when we talk about creating more resiliency in the classroom, I'm a mindfulness teacher, so maybe obviously this is what I want to bring forward, but it might not be so obvious. Mindfulness is this very particular technique of paying attention to what's happening in the moment. And it's not that obvious maybe on what does that have to do with resiliency? How does that lead up to resiliency? And what I'm going to be pointing to is that it's not just mindfulness. When we have a mindfulness curriculum that we're implementing in a classroom setting or any professional setting with kids, you're getting more than just mindfulness. A full mindfulness curriculum contains all the different skills that we need to build resiliency. So it's not just mindfulness. And I'll come back to that as we go through our hour today. But first, I want to point to this, this quote from Rick Hanson. This is from his book, Resilience, How to Grow an Unshakable Core of Calm, Strength, and Happiness. He says that every human being has three basic needs: safety, satisfaction, and connection, that are grounded in our ancient evolutionary history. So he's making a case that these three needs, safety, satisfaction, and connection, that they are core to our ability to thrive as human beings, and that this has always been true for human beings. And when I was reading this book, which was in part the inspiration also for this topic, just realizing these three core needs have been really shaken up during this time of COVID. So if you look, safety, just the amount of fear within our communities, within our own life, our families going through this past year, our sense of safety has been shaken. Satisfaction, this could be in the most simple things. All the different things that we were doing in our life pre-COVID that brought us joy and happiness. The small routines within our day could be something like just going to the coffee shop to get our daily coffee. It's not something we have to do, but it's something maybe we did because it brought us some kind of satisfaction. It was something we enjoyed. It was part of our routine, all these little routines. So that's part of satisfaction, all the small things that bring us joy and ultimately support us through the day. Satisfaction can also be meaning, just finding meaning. If we've had to put on hold things that brought a lot of purpose to our life during this past year, or if we've had to sacrifice parts of those things that bring us purpose, that satisfaction need is no longer met. And then on a real basic level, even things like having access to enough food, access to income, these very essential needs were threatened for a lot of people, a lot of families, and maybe some of you on the call here today. And then connection, of course, as we've been unable to be in person with many of the people, our loved ones, our friends, our colleagues, having to teach online, not being directly in contact with our students, what that does to everybody. It affects how we feel. It affects our resiliency. It affects our sense of ourself. So all of this has been shaken up in this past year. And so that resiliency, even if you consider yourself a resilient person, or even our students, those who we've identified in the past as being really resilient, that's a bit unknown right now. Or in your own personal experience, of your own resiliency, you may have noticed kind of the waves of feeling like you can work through something, and those periods of time where there was just a lot of overwhelm and a feeling of maybe inadequacy to meet what was going on in the moment. I'm not sure many of us had the tools to ride this year out with total grace. Even myself, and I have all these practices. It's been really hard. It's been a hard year. So the good news, though, is that mindfulness is a great coping mechanism. It's a wonderful coping mechanism. There's lots of coping mechanisms out there. Mindfulness is a healthy one. So it can help us in the moment, right here, right now, wherever we're at, as we're going through this transitionary time, looking forward into the future, into the next school year. Mindfulness can help us cope. It can help our kids cope right in the moment when they're struggling or when we're struggling. It helps regulate our emotions, helps regulate our body. It brings forward more compassionate thinking, which is absolutely necessary when we're going through a difficult time. It motivates self-care, helps us take care of ourselves, reach out for help when we need it. But in terms of resiliency, which is more of a long-term building of skills, mindfulness is also a state of mind. It's a way of being in our life. It's not just a Band-Aid. So it can be a very effective Band-Aid in the moment when we need it, but it's more than that. If we only use it for that, then we're not using it to its full potential. It is about the long game. So right now, when I think about mindfulness and all that we've gone through and all that there is to come, we don't have to sugarcoat it. We know that there's a lot of challenges that we face and these coming generations are facing. But the good news is that bringing in a mindfulness curriculum, teaching kids young, exposing them to all of this right now, it does help them build the grit. I like that word, grit. We need grit and we need heart so that we can meet what is actually happening in the world and within our own personal lives. So a mindfulness curriculum can do that. A mindfulness practice can do that. Whoops. So I have a definition here of resiliency, but it's funny, I can't actually read it because it's cut off on my slide. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so resiliency, it's this ability to be able to meet whatever is happening, adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, significant sources of stress, to be able to move through it, to be able to problem solve with whatever is here. So to be resilient, it's important to know that we're not just talking about mental toughness, to kind of tough it out, get your game face on and just kind of plow through whatever is going on. That's not what it means to be resilient. Resilient, there's this chance to move through, to work with whatever that emotional difficulty is, that upheaval, the suffering, and grow from it. To be able to even transform that adversity into something that can support us as we go through our life. So again, this is a mind state. It's a state of mind, how we see our challenges in life, how we allow them to define us. And I'm guessing that many of you here on the call would agree that it's actually the more difficult times you've gone through, the real challenges in your life that you've worked through and were present with, that you found the most growth. That those are the things that shaped you to be here, to be interested in something like mindfulness and resiliency. It's what teaches us to be more compassionate with each other. It's these things that bring us confidence that we can get through real difficulty, get through tragedy even. So this is what it means to be resilient. We also know that resiliency is not something that's fixed in our ability. So if you've been experiencing a lack of resiliency, or if you're noticing that your child or your students, there's a real lack of resiliency, that doesn't mean that that's it. It's not solidified in who we are, who they are, that they're just not a resilient person. That resiliency is something that we can learn, that we can cultivate. And so moving back to Rick Hanson's book, Resilient, he has a wonderful outline of this. He creates this grid of these are the building blocks for resiliency. These are the things that we can learn, that we can practice. When we practice them, they reshape our brain. It affects our state of mind. It affects the way we relate to really hard times in our life. And when I look at this grid, I see a mindfulness curriculum. Within a good mindfulness curriculum, we're touching upon all of these things: compassion, confidence, gratitude, calm, grit, aspiration, courage, motivation, intimacy, generosity, how to learn. All of these are within a good mindfulness curriculum. Of course, mindfulness is in here, so it has a definite place within this grid of building blocks. But again, in a mindfulness curriculum, it's not all that we're learning. That mindfulness isn't the only thing that that we are teaching our kids. So I hope that's helpful just to get a framework of what we're doing here, what we're talking about. I want to now, for the rest of our time together, to take you through very simple techniques that everyone here, regardless of your experience in mindfulness, regardless of your resilience level, these are all very simple techniques that you can start right away using with your kids. And I'm teaching them to you online. You can teach them to this online if you're still doing online school. So I want to touch on some of these categories that Rick Hansen outlined, but I won't get through all of them because we don't have that kind of time today. So I'm just giving you a taste of what might be in a curriculum. This is within our curriculum at Now Children. So I want to start with regulation, and that's a place I'd recommend starting, to just go right into paying attention to something with some concentration that might not be in everybody's capacity, especially considering all that's happened in this past year. But even pre-COVID, put this past, all that happened in this past year aside, even without that, I think first working with regulation, helping kids' nervous systems become more calm, centered, help them with their emotions before we go into very specific mindfulness techniques. So the first one is sound. And I think sound is interesting in that it is a mindfulness technique. I don't know of a mindfulness curriculum that doesn't have listening to the bell. That's just classic. And I have a bell here, I'll use the bell, but it's important to understand what's happening when we're listening. What is that doing for our ability to regulate? And you can test this for yourself. When our body is amped up, when we are dysregulated, we're anxious, nervous, maybe we're just hyper, it's really hard to bring the attention down into the body. It's not where the natural place that the mind wants to go. And so sound, even though we're experiencing sound in the body, it's not necessarily down in the body. We're listening to it here, and it's something that is happening outside of us. So the focus can be a little more broad. And this is very soothing to the nervous system, to have something to focus on, but something that's not at the center of the anxiety or the center of all that energy. So it's more on the periphery. So we can try that right now. And if you're in the classroom, you can do this in a lot of different ways. You could play some kind of sound, you could download bird songs or water, sound effects of the rain, something like this. Or you can just have your students listen to whatever is there. It doesn't have to be pleasant or soothing sounds. It can be whatever is there. Let's do this together. You can close your eyes if that's comfortable. If it's not, you can keep your eyes open and just have them focusing downwards so there's not a lot of visual distraction. And then bring your attention to sound. And imagine that sound is coming to your ears. You're not going out to meet the sound is coming to you, because it is. Notice what you're listening to. Some sounds might be loud. Sometimes it's very quiet. Sometimes all we're doing is listening to the quiet. What does quiet sound like? And I'm going to ring the bell so that you can focus on one particular sound and see if you can put all your attention just on this one sound and what that feels like. See if you can notice that sound all the way to the end. You can open your eyes. So for some, the sound meditation is very soothing. It gives them a sense of place without having to go too deeply into any real challenge yet, any difficulty, but it can be very centering. For other students, they'll need something else. So I want to give you this next practice. Again, this is very short, very simple. You could bring this in any time of your day during the school day. This is called the self-squeeze. And to do this, we're just going to tighten up muscles through our whole body and then release and see what that does. So this helps with a lot of physical regulation, get all that excess energy. Sometimes I use this too when I've got kids who are really tired. They're understimulated. They need something to bring them up. And so this brings us into some kind of balance, that homeostasis, that middle place within our regulation. So it goes like this. You're going to start with your hands and tighten them like this, make a fist, and then tighten your arms, and then your toes, your feet, and your legs. Keep it all tight. And then your stomach, you might bend over a little bit, and then tighten up your face. You can scrunch up your face, your whole body. And then on 3, we're going to release. 1, 2, 3. You feel that? Let's do it again. Yeah, I saw that. Let's try again. So our hands, our arms, our feet, legs, your stomach, your face, squeeze the whole body. 1, 2, 3, release. So simple, but so effective. So then we bring in some mindfulness. I want to bring in mindfulness techniques that also work with this regulating piece, because again, I think this is really important right now. So this first 2 have to do with the breath. And normally with mindful breathing, I'm asking children to find where they feel the breath the most. I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time. This first one is going to involve movement. And movement with breath is helpful in many ways. For some kids, that movement helps them focus their attention a lot more easily. becomes tactile. It brings it, I don't know, it's more relatable what's happening with the breath, which is such an internal experience, and it brings it a little bit more into the full body, so it's more accessible. This movement also helps with soothing the breath, bringing the breath into a more soothing rhythm, which is very tied into our nervous system. When we can breathe in a soothing way, it has a direct effect on our nervous system. So this is called a waterfall breath. And I actually recommend standing up for this. So I can't stand up because you'll lose me in the video, but you can stand up and place you, if you can, if you're physically able to stand up. Otherwise, you can do it in the chair with me. Great. Yep, you can stand, and if you are standing, feel your feet planted on the floor. And that's how I'd recommend it with kids, have them stand. Feet planted on the floor. If you're not standing, feel your body in your seat. Feel supported by your chair. And you're going to bring your arms out in front of you, down in front of your body. And you're going to bring them up. And as you bring them up, you're going to breathe in. A big breath. And it helps to breathe out of the nose. But if you've got a child with a stuffy nose, they just breathe out of their mouth. And you can bring your arms way up, as far up as you can until they're up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to waterfall down very gently. It's a gentle waterfall. Breathing out. Again, breathing in. And see if you can let your in-breath be as long as it takes for your arms to reach the ceiling. And then breathing out. You might do this 5 or more times, lifting up your hands, breathing in. Just notice as we're doing this together, how this is feeling. You're able to pay attention to the breath. It's making it very bodily. It's not the idea of the breath that you're paying attention to. You can feel the physical sensations of breathing. You're controlling its pace, which is helping the nervous system. Okay, and then if you are standing, you can stay there if you're able. If you're sitting, you can do this with me too. Now we're going to take both hands and put it down on our belly. And see if we can pay attention to the breath down at the stomach. And sometimes I talk about filling up a balloon. So as you're breathing in and out, imagine that balloon is filling your lungs and your belly with air. Big, slow breaths, the same length as when you were doing your waterfall breaths. Notice how that feels. You'll notice too, if you're in the classroom, how still and quiet things get. And you can always point that out. How different it is in here than when we're doing all of our work, or than when we're transitioning to something. How does that feel? Okay, you can stop there. And then to ask your students how they feel, so they begin to see that they can do these really simple techniques and that it helps, that it makes them feel different. that there's something soothing, something quieting, something interesting happening here. This is really fascinating, that our body and our mind, it's connected, how we feel and our emotions and how we feel in our body. There's a lot of connection here. Get curious about it. Okay. I'm going to move into one more because I'm realizing time. And for those of you who, all of you registered, we'll send out these practices and a few extras that will make up 7 different practices for you. We won't get to them all today, but this is a good start. So then finally, I want to do one called Wishing Your Neighbor Well. And this is more of a heart practice. Heart practices are important to a mindfulness curriculum. It helps balance it out. Because ultimately, whatever we're cultivating in our mindfulness practice with all these different techniques, where that comes out into our actions, the way that we speak to each other, it takes also some cultivation of these heart practices. So often we have compassion and kindness and generosity, gratitude in a mindfulness curriculum. So this one is called Wishing Your Neighbor Well. And to do this on Zoom, it does help if everyone is visible. But if you don't want to, that's okay. And what you're going to do is take a moment to look at who's here, even if it's just their names. That name is representing a real person. Okay, just see who's here. And then as you're looking at everyone here, you can wish them well, just in your mind. So you could wish them health, happiness, wish them a good day. Wish them ease. Whatever comes up naturally for you. All these people you probably don't know. And then now I want you to notice and realize that you are being wished well. You're a part of our virtual circle. That each person here is wishing you well. And taking that in. Let's notice how that feels. If we were all in a space, in a physical space together, or if you're in a classroom with a bunch of kids, I have them close their eyes during this because it can be so intense otherwise, just to give them that sense of safety. But it works the same, where you close your eyes and they'll know who their classmates are. They know who's in the room. And imagining all of them and wishing them well in their mind. And then at some point, reflecting to them that everyone in the room is wishing them well and what that feels like. And often the result is this feeling of connection, bringing in that need for connection, a sense of safety, going to those basic needs. So maybe you get a hit of that just now in our virtual space here together. So let's see. I know that we're getting close here, but I'm going to throw one more in. And that is gratitude. There's a lot of research on all of these mindfulness techniques, compassion techniques. There's a lot of interest in the psychological world, positive psychology around gratitude, and just how powerful it is as a practice, what it does to our relatedness to each other and to our own life. And in terms of going through adversity, going through a really difficult time, experiencing the whole range of our humanness, what that might mean for us individually. It's so easy for the mind to fixate on what isn't right, especially about ourselves. We can easily fixate on what we don't have, that comparing mind that comes in. The idea here isn't to just say, just be satisfied and take whatever is given. That's not what I'm saying. But there's to be able to have the resilience to move forward, to accomplish what you want to accomplish, to make public what those adversities are, how we can make change. We also need that resiliency, that buoyancy. We need to be able to see the fullness of our life, not just what's lacking, but what's not lacking. What do we have an abundance of? If we're only focused on the one, we burn out. There's not enough juice. No, there's not enough coming in to keep us going. We have to have our mindfulness gaze open to both. And so this is where gratitude is so important, to be able to recognize just what is the abundance in our life. What is the abundance within us personally? And so we can take a moment. You can journal. If you've got some notes, I see people taking notes. You can write these down if that helps you. Otherwise, you can do this in your mind. And to start with, I want you to think of just one person that you're so grateful to have in your life. Could be a family member. It could be a close friend. It could be your pet. It could be a colleague. If you were a student, I would say it could be your teacher, your classmates. See if you can come up with one person you're so grateful to have them in your life. Notice what it feels like to think about this person in this way. You're so grateful for them to be in your life. And then shift the focus back on yourself. What is something about you you're so grateful about, so grateful for? Some quality that you have some ability. Maybe it's that you're really smart, or you're funny, or creative, or you're courageous, that you know how to be a good friend, you know how to help people. What's one quality that you're grateful for? See what it's like to feel that gratitude for this part of yourself. You can imagine that part of yourself is just shining forward right now. Let it be as big as it wants to be. And then the last is place. Where is a place that you love? You'd love to be. It might be your own room. It might be on your comfy couch. It might be somewhere outside. It might be in a movie theater. It could be anything. What's one place you're so grateful? It's somewhere you get to go. Somewhere you get to feel good about who you are, about your life. It might be at the dinner table with that person you're so grateful for. Notice how you feel thinking about this place, holding it with this gratitude in your mind. Notice how your body feels when you think about this place. Does it feel more secure and calm? Maybe it feels excited. And even if you're not in that place right now and there's some wishing there, I wish I was there right now, you can notice that in your mind, you can bring that place. You can bring that person you're grateful for. You can bring that quality of yourself forward. You can do all of that right in the moment. And notice how that feels. You can end by taking a big breath all together. Okay. So I was able to share 6 very, very simple techniques with you. The last one is called Growing Your Roots, and it's a body practice, and I'll send that out to you, so you'll get that one too. It's a body awareness practice. But any of these are very, very simple. You'll see in the scripts that I'll send you just how, these are 1-step, 2-step, maybe 3-step techniques that you don't even need a script for once you've done them a few times. You can bring them in with your work with kids virtually. It works just fine. You can do it in person. So I hope that these are helpful. I want to open it up for any questions that you might have, and you're welcome to ask really specific questions about your situation, how, what you're seeing with children, with your students, or whoever you're working with, or even your own personal practice, if that's what's coming up with you as we're going through these. And the way you can do this is to send them to Heather Lear, who's our program manager. Thanks, Heather. And then she can go through and she might ask you to unmute and ask the question. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just send it to her and she'll read it off.
Kate, I wonder if while some questions are coming in, I have one
Okay, great.
for you, which is one of my, I always love the why. why is this? I noticed in some of the practices that came through, and I don't know if you all felt this too. I definitely did. I love this. I love this work. You got me. You just like sparked this. And I know I'm a little biased, and it just really hit my heart. So why do you love doing this so much? It comes through. It comes through so strongly. So why the love?
What other choice is there? I mean, really, I think for those who start engaging in these practices, and you start to know just how valuable they are in life. I know that's how it starts with me, is it's just my own practice, and I need this to get through. You know, I'm working with kids professionally. I also have a 5-year-old. You know, yeah, I have a real life that I have to navigate and enjoy, and all of that. And I need these practices. They support me in being able to do all of that. And then I think it's just a natural unfolding of then wanting to share the parts of our lives that are meaningful to other people. And for me, that one of those passions has been to bring it to kids, because boy, I wish I had this when I was in elementary school or middle school, high school. Yeah, thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you. So there's a question here. How do we take the full course curriculum, and are there options if that's not possible,
Great.
like time constraints?
Yeah, that's great.
I can resonate with that.
Yeah, we've considered that too. So if you've registered for this webinar, you're not required to sign up for anything else, but some of you probably have already explored the website and know that we have a curriculum training. But really what we have is this opportunity to be part of a larger community of professionals who are interested in this sort of thing. And you can, as part of that, you have access to, I think it's over 100 videos, teaching videos, over 100 different, it's 100 different teaching videos. I forget how many lessons are within that, but there's a lot. We have a huge library of curriculum lessons that you have access to. And then in addition to that, if you are wanting to go through that with mentorship, we have these small mentor cohorts that are starting to form. And you would be going through that with me. And it's a 12-month process. We meet once a month and go more in depth. We go more in depth in the curriculum, but we also go in more depth with each other. It's this way of connecting and really meeting people in this work, which I think is really important, that we're not all just doing this, feeling alone in this work in some way, which I think sometimes is the case. So that's all available right now on the website. People can check that out. Thanks, Heather. Okay. Oh, okay. So maybe that's it. All right. Well, if you have other questions that are specific and how to do this with your children, your students, feel free to reach out. You can email us at hello@nowchildren.com, and that'll get forwarded to me, and I'll respond to you personally. And I'm happy to support people wanting to bring this to kids. That's what I do. So please don't hesitate there. And I think just finally, just some gratitude to you all for coming and being on the call today. There were a lot of people who registered who will get the recording later, but it's nice to have you all here and see your face and see just who's interested. So thank you so much for coming. And we hope to be in touch and support you in whatever way that is needed. So let us know what that might be for you, and take good care. Thanks, everybody.